Zero Touch Code. So before I start the talk, let me just give you a brief introduction of me. So my name is Shubhankar Pal. I am Director Technology in the Technology Office in Addison. So the Technology Office is headed by the CTO of the Walid Nigam. And let me just tell you, like, I am not a so-called expert in code, but some of the areas that I am working on, I believe they are quite important for code, and going forward, they can be the game changers. So, so my current focus area in the team that I work in is a behavior-driven development approach for the CI/CD. So we'll talk more about this and how it is driving a new era of continuous requirement phase in a DevOps pipeline. The second area that I am working on is an autonomous network ecosystem, which is like self-driving, self-optimizing network, which is one of the use cases that used to be in SDNV, and that is now being extended to code as well for their zero-touch ecosystem. And the third area I'm working on is some of the interesting use cases of edge. So as code is also moving to the edge, so this will also be important. So with this, these three areas, you'll see more deep dive into the talk that I have for next hour or so. So the way I have structured this talk is, I will talk about the certain challenges of the code community is facing today. I'm sure I am not listing down all the challenges that code faces, because maybe I don't know all of them, but some of the key pain points that code community is facing today, for which maybe a zero-touch ecosystem is required. This is where I will try to highlight and try to build my story around those challenges. Then I will talk about the paradigm shift that is happening in the service delivery and the consumption in a service provider environment. So I've been listening to the talks from the industry leaders in AT&T, Deutsche Telekom, Telefonica, and they were talking about how there's a shift that is happening for service delivery and service consumption. So in that line itself, I will touch upon this again to build my story of why you need a single pane window for zero-touch ecosystem. So this is, I think, the pressing point that we have in code today. So we have a service delivery model using XOS or anything as a service layer, but is it a zero-touch, single window, zero-touch ecosystem? No, today it's not. But this is where we are trying to build and trying to take our XOS to this next level. So, so this paradigm shift and this zero-touch ecosystem, I will talk about, and what is the vision that we are having to get this single pane window on my XOS layer. So with all this, I will start talking about a new concept called behavior-driven approach, which is picking up very fast, and this is I should say, a new methodology altogether in software development, and specifically software development using a DevOps, Agile, and CI/CD pipelines. So with that, I will talk about how this behavior-driven approach can fit on top of our XOS architecture to bring a new concept called behavior-driven XOS. So this is a new concept that is going to be the game changer in this entire ecosystem of zero-touch service delivery and consumption. And then I will talk about the use cases of RCode, MCode, and ECode that can be modeled around this BDXOS and the behavior-driven approach. And I will take some of the key examples, and we'll see that how, if I model it, I can use it. Then if the time permits, I will talk about a few of the results and interesting case studies we have been seeing in the industry. Some of them we are, as I said, we are working very deeply with our customer itself. We'll talk about what are our future work that we plan to do on this area. And then the community support. So as code community, what support we expect from them to make it a mainstream concept for zero-touch ecosystem. With this, I mean, various question answers, so we can either take question answers when I'm talking, you can interrupt me, and I will be very happy to answer, or we can take it at the end of the call, end of the talk, maybe last 15 minutes I can keep it for open discussion around this. It's an interesting topic, I know there will be a lot of questions, so I will be very happy to take them. Okay. Right. So situation got not as bad as this elephant and sick blind man. So you all know about the story of elephant and sick blind man. But I think the court situation not so bad. But if we don't, address to these challenges today, the situation very soon will be like this. That means we'll be harping on some of the areas, but we don't know what is the end-to-end picture we are delivering to our customers. So I have tried to list down some of the challenges that I see in the way that the quad is building up today. And I think these are, if not taken care of, can aggravate into a bigger problem as quad is expanding and scaling out. And then it will be very difficult to create an end-to-end picture for quad. Now, so what are these challenges about? So the first problem is the quad is huge. We are talking about central offices. They're itself very complex. And on top of this, we are talking about multiple different technologies. We are talking about OpenStack, we are talking about Docker, we are talking about ONOS, we are talking about XOS. And the way the applications are built in today is that any control applications are built on top of ONOS. Any service-related, business-related applications are built on top of OpenStack or Docker, and then you have as-a-service applications that are built on top of XOS. So there are multiple different areas on top of which I'm building my application. So is there a way to define my end-to-end business requirement today in a single pane window? No, I don't have. Right? So that is the biggest problem that I see today. So the problem that we are having is, like there are experts who are only working on ONOS, there are experts who are working on OpenStack and Docker and so on. But what we are missing today is collaboration. Because the control application guy, he doesn't know like what I am writing on top of the VMs or the containers and so on. So we are not collaborating. We are having this elephant kind of view where whichever part I am touching, I'm thinking that this is what quad is, but that is not quad. Quad is much bigger than that. So to solve this problem, to some extent, quad community has created this XOS layer. So what is XOS? XOS is anything as a service operating system on top of quad. So to minimize this loose end and create one holistic platform on top of it, the application we created. But is it solving the problem today? No, it is not. Why? Because it has, again, a lot of cryptic APIs, it has a lot of cryptic data models. That means you need to understand the infrastructure below this. You have to understand what are the central offices on top of which you are writing the application. You have to still understand these OpenStacks and the ONOS of the world and how they work, what their APIs are, and then you can write something on XOS. So am I writing a business application? No. I'm still beating my head against these different components of code in XOS. So the problem that we are facing is that in spite of having this XOS layer, I am not able to get this business requirement driven approach for service delivery. I am not able to write a business requirement that I want to deliver to my end customer. So the problem of not having a business requirement is that am I able to integrate the policies? Am I able to integrate my processes of my organization today? Policies in terms of there are security policies that I have to integrate. Am I able to do that? No. Because I don't have a single place where I can do that. There are multiple places that I don't know how many holes I'm in, how many loose ends I have to plug in. So all this taken together is creating a lot of cost for me to introduce a new service in a complex architecture like Kafka. And then there is a problem like scalability and security that I'm not able to achieve because of this. So these are the few important points that I wanted to highlight upon before I can start building the story of a behavior-driven approach for zero-touch automation. Because these are like the pressing point that I see today for a unified service delivery on top of code. So what are these leading to? So these are leading to this kind of situation. That means I can have to catch up points, right? So one I have it in the top, another is what I can screen. But I would like to have the second one because that gives me a better experience. So what I am building today is a product, right? But what I want to build for my customer is an experience, which is where all this open source community are struggling today to give a better experience to my customer. So this is what with this talk I want to achieve. That can I go and ask my core community that I want to build an experience and I don't want to build a product that we are doing. Okay. So right. So with this, now we know that we are in a situation. There's a lot of loose ends. We are in a situation where we are creating a product where we are not creating an experience for ourselves, and we are in a situation where we are not able to define my business requirement. So all this is asking me to come up with a vision where I can have a single pane window through which I can create a zero touch ecosystem for Quad. And this is one of the hot topics in the Quad community today, to have one single layer through which maybe on a click of a button, or maybe without much of human intervention, can I achieve all these 4 elements. And what are these 4 elements are? So these 4 elements are, can I have a zero touch service onboarding? So what is zero touch service onboarding? That means when I create a service, am I able to deploy, provision and configure this service and activate it for my end user? So can I do without a human intervention? Second is, once my service is deployed and my service is activated, up and running, it needs a lot of human intervention today, or what we call the NOC, or Network Operation Center, where people are sitting monitoring all the alarms and events to keep this service up and running. So the call that we are making between party A and party B today to my friends and family, so there are a lot of people who are actually supporting the background, who are seeing that the network services are up and running. So can I remove this human intervention altogether, and can I have a complete zero touch optimization? Zero touch optimization for so zero touch optimization for self healing and self management of the service. Third is a zero touch ecosystem for network security, and finally what I was speaking about is the user experience. Can I have a zero touch user experience? If I see that my data speed is going down, or if I see that I am not able to connect to my favorite channel through a residential cord, can this be automatically taken care of without I go and complaining to the service center that hey, my services are not working? Can I do it without a human intervention? This is the vision that we are carrying for Quad using zero touch automation. So things like behavior-driven automation and artificial intelligence are pouring in to help us to have this cause fulfilled for us. Okay, so till now we have seen what are the problems and why we need a zero-touch ecosystem altogether to help us deal with this kind of situation. Right. So what is the service provider doing today? And I think this is one of the important areas which will help us to build rest of our talk is, what is the paradigm shift that we are seeing in the service provider? You might have heard the talks from the industry leaders in yesterday and yesterday's keynotes, where they're exactly talking about this. They are talking about that they are seeing a shift in how the service developers want to have a shift in how the services are being delivered, and how, as an end user, I want to have a different and better experience for the service consumption. Now, coming to the service delivery part, how I want to have the service being delivered. If I have a concept of a service and I'm creating a service for myself, the first thing that I would like to have is, can I assimilate the infrastructure that is required for my service on demand through white box hardware and out of the box software. The hardware can be the white box leaf and spine switches, the white box compute servers, and the out-of-the-box softwares can be the DNS and the network services that I have. So can I assimilate my infrastructure with that? Second is, after I have the required infrastructure, can I create the program or can I create my service through a business logic editor? That means I can drag and drop, create my business logic through reusable components, and on a click of a button I'm able to deploy my service. Not those cryptic coding and those Python and Rubies of the world. Can I have a business logic editor and I can create my service? So I want to make it easy and fast and a visible approach where I concentrate on my business logic rather than remembering those syntaxes or Rubies and Pythons of the world. So I assimilated my infrastructure, I created my program, and I have deployed my program on demand, zero touch, into the network. And the third thing that I want to do is I should be able to monitor my network on demand as well. That means through a single pane window, I'm able to monitor the service health, the service KPI if they are deteriorating, and can take actions. So this is a paradigm shift in the service delivery that is happening. So service delivery is to be drama early. That means a service delivery is to take you months for the deployment. Now the service delivery is completely zero touch using this new paradigm. So once the service is delivered to the end user, how the end user want to consume the service. So he want to consume the service the same way as we consume or we order services in Amazon or eBay. So I should have a portal where I can select my service, seeing the service catalog, the same way I see my products in Amazon or eBay. I should be able to select from the different options that I have. Maybe if I am selecting a VPN service, I should be able to select the different speed that I want. And then I should select the number of sites I want to connect to through this VPN. And then I should see a price. And with this price, I'm able to decide whether I want to go for this service or not. So I'm not calling this service centers and beating my head against a dumb service agent and trying to explain what I want. I can do everything through a self-service portal where I can select from a catalog what service I need. So once I have selected my service, I know the price, I can even configure which locations I want this service to be activated. And once my service is activated, I have a dashboard where I can see how much I have been charged based on the usage that I have over a month or a week or so on. So this is how the service consumption approach is changing. That means how I select my package, how I might design my parameters, and how I see the usage of the package. So altogether, it is boiling down to a single pane window through which I can deliver my service as a service developer, and a single pane window for the consumers to pick and choose the service and start using it. So this is the foundation of the zero-touch automation for a part that we are seeing in the industry. All right. So this is a familiar picture for all of us. So if I have to connect to what I have talked about till now to what this is. So we have talked about the challenges, we have talked about a paradigm shift that is happening to cater to this kind of challenge that we have seen. So now to onboard a new service that we have seen, what is the change that the service developers have to have. So this is a very traditional way of like how we create a service and deploy it in a production network. So I have a service. So let me take a pointer that will help you to point to the right places. Okay. So I have a service, and then on the requirement for the service. So from there I write the application code, and I write the test scenario. I create automation scripts. I create an ecosystem where I can start testing my service with all these environment parameters. Then I test it, stage it, deploy it, and from the deployment, I get the required KPIs to create my reporting and analytics, which can offline feed to my test scenario. So you can ask me like, what is new in that? I mean, we all are doing for ages this, right? So let me take have a twist to this and see it in a different angle altogether. What if there is a change in my service requirement? Change can be a completely new requirement that is coming in, or there is an update into the existing requirement. So if this requirement changes, the way the service development is happening today is there is changes that I have to do as human in all the places where I have these red ticks. That means if I have a change in requirement in my service, there will be a change in the application code that I have to do. I have to maybe create some more test scenarios or update test scenarios. Then I have to change the automation script, execution environment, test, stage, deploy, and then reporting and analytics. So almost every place where the service delivery lifecycle has some touch points, this is changing because of a simple change in requirement. And why it is happening? Because we don't have a continuous requirement architecture. What we have today is a continuous integration and continuous delivery architecture, or what we popularly call it DevOps. But we don't have a continuous requirement architecture. That means if there is a change in a requirement that is happening, that is not automatically changing my delivery lifecycle. So that is the biggest problem that I have, that is holding me back to have this zero-touch architecture that I'm envisioning for Core today. So what I will like to have as a developer, if you ask me like, okay, hey, we have this problem. So what do you like to have? So what I would like to have is, again, this is the same ecosystem. So I am not changing anything in the life cycle. That remains same. Only thing that I will like to have is, again, if there is a change in the service requirement that is happening, I will only like to concentrate on the implementation of that requirement through my application code. And everything else, which are these circles here, should be an automated process. So the test scenarios should be automatically created, automation scenarios should be automatically created, my execution, the changes in the execution environment should be all automated, the test stage and deploy should be all automated, and the any change in the reporting and analytics that is required should all be automated. Because these are, works in a factory model, it works in a way that has a direct mapping to the way the service has changed. So there is no requirement of a human to sit and do this change. We can avoid an human intervention to have these changes. So I want my intelligent service developer to only focus on intelligently writing the application code, and everything else should be automated, because there is no intelligence required in that. So if I am able to do that, so that will be my foundation stone for a zero-touch service onboarding. Right. So we have seen the vision that we are carrying for zero-touch code. We have seen how we want to do a service development so that I can lead to this zero-touch onboarding ecosystem. But how can I do that? I am still clueless because the different constructs that I have today for development of a service today, that doesn't help me to have this continuous requirement architecture that I'm talking about, or continuously the change in requirement, continuously changing the ecosystem altogether where the service will be tested and will deploy. So that is not there today. So, but can I do that? Can I have something that can help me to do that? I will say yes, and that is hidden in the way the software methodologies have been evolving over time. So this bubble depicts the different time or different eras of software development. So in the 90s, which is the blue bubble in the extreme left, this one. So then we didn't have any formal processes how the software will be developed. And then when we started the decade of 2000, we started with the waterfall model. So we know, you all know like what is the waterfall model is. The waterfall model means I design, I develop, I test, and then I go to production, all in a as if it's a waterfall, right? So with that, I have started something called a black box testing. That means after the product is all developed, I have one big box which I don't know what is inside, and I am started testing it. And that means I'm not having the tester right from the inception of the project, rather he is coming in when the testing phase is starting. So I never thought that there is a requirement of a full-time tester, and I used to have a part-time tester. And then it started evolving to something called a V model. That means if I am doing, I'm writing a small piece of code, I should have, if I'm writing a small piece of code, I should have the unit testing in place. When integrating, I should have integration testing in place. When I'm creating a system level service, I should have system testing and so on. So that means every left-hand side inclination of V, which is the development side, should have a corresponding right-hand side, which is the testing side. So every development piece should have its corresponding testing piece. So there we have started moving from a black box testing to something called a gray box testing, and we are moving away from simply doing a functional testing, which is still there, but we are doing more end-to-end and system level testing. So then from the V model, which is like around a decade back ago when we are doing this V model, so start of this decade maybe, or the decade before, we started with something called Agile. And that is one of the more contemporary models that we are still using today. So in Agile, we are not taking everything together as in the waterfall. Rather, we are taking a product backlog and dividing into smaller chunks that we call sprints. And we are taking one sprint, defining the task, and sprint will be like 15 days or 30 days cycle. We are running those sprints, we are doing the development, doing the testing, completing that piece, putting it in the finished product bag, and then we are taking another item from the backlog. So this is what an Agile is like. We are not eating, we are not trying to boil the entire ocean, rather we are talking smaller pieces, ensuring it is finished, putting it in the finished bin, and then only we are taking the next part. So that is Agile, right? And with that, we are doing two important things that is coming in, which is white box testing. That means we are, the people who are testing, they are very close to the developers, or maybe they are part of the development team itself, so they know what goes into the code or what goes to the service implementation, and they are able to use this knowledge to test all the different parts of the service, so lesser work than a black box and a gray box testing. With this, so this is a shift left approach that is happening. That means the testers are more closer, or the testing is happening more closer to the development rather than it is happening at the end of the life cycle of the service development. So then we are now into the DevOps model. So are you all familiar with the DevOps model, CI/CD, right? So with the DevOps model, what is happening is it is an integrated QA approach that we are taking. That means the testing is an embedded part of the development itself, and it is happening all automated. And what we are now focusing on is a business outcome driven approach. That means we are focusing more on the business side rather than the implementation of the coding side. So because everything is automated, so I am focusing more on the business side, and this is leading to something called as a behavior driven approach. That means I am concentrating more on how the behaviors of the service should be, and I'm more interested in implementing the behavior and testing the behavior, which is the business requirement, rather than I am concentrating on some piece of code and how well I write the code, or how good I am in coding with all the good coding practices. So I'm not focused on that. Maybe that's still required, but as an maybe a product manager, I should be more focused on a business outcome-driven development using a CI/CD pipeline. So this is leading to a behavior-driven approach, and this is a construct I believe will be very important for all of us for creating this zero-touch ecosystem for our service onboarding and service optimization, service operation. So as I was saying, that it's hidden in our development methodology itself. So if I can pick the right constructs from the software methodologies that have been used for years, that will give me the base for my zero-touch ecosystem. So I'm not sure if you're aware of this behavior-driven approach altogether. So I mean, this is there for certain years now. I mean, it is not new, and it's not like I am inventing this. I mean, this is a software methodology that is there as an industry standard for some time now. So why this behavior-driven approach? First of all, the behavior-driven approach is, as I said, that you define the behavior that you want to do. For example, if I take this SketchUp example again. So I need the SketchUp, right, from this bottle, but I want it the easiest possible way. So I want that I should spend the least effort to get the SketchUp out on my plate when I need. So that is the user experience of the business requirement that I have. For that, I use a common language that was missing earlier, and this common language is very English-like language. Earlier, what happened is, if I talk about a traditional approach, the business requirements are written in, say, some kind of tool or some kind of Word document or an Excel sheet, and then that is being interpreted by the developer or tester the way they want it to be, and then they write the code and the test cases. Now, does the business guy understand what the code is or the test script is? He doesn't, because he doesn't understand what is going inside. So this is the paradigm shift that is happening. So can I define a common language which everybody understands, which is more English-like language that I have, and that is an executable language. That means that can go to the compiler and create my source code, that can go to the compiler and create my test scripts, and so on. That is a common language that I want to have it here. Let me just have a time check as well. 40 minutes, like 10 minutes. Okay. So this common language helps the analyst, the developer, the domain experts, all collaborate. That is the most important thing that is required, and so that the application code can be derived from that, test can be derived from that, association that can be derived from that, and even whiteboarding has to be done. That can all be done through this this behavior-driven approach. So what it is? So how a behavior looks like? So a behavior looks like, for example, if I am taking an MCOD example, this is how a behavior looks like. That means I have, say for example, I want to test a feature of voice over LTE, and I want to test like if I am able to make a call from A party to B party. So I have a very simple construct, and even I don't need to explain you. You can read by yourself and understand, like I am placing a call from my phone to another party, and I am able to set up audio conversation. So only this constructs highlighted in bold are to be followed. Everything else is free flow English language. Okay, so now I know that behavior-driven approach helps me to provide this very good construct of zero-touch automation. That means I can define a behavior and everything else is automated. So how I apply this to my contemporary CI/CD approach or the DevOps approach that I have. So in DevOps, what we have today is continuous integration and continuous delivery. Continuous integration means the software components, as they are written, they are continuously integrated, unit tested, and so on. And continuous delivery means once they are integrated into a package, they go into different test environments. Like the system test environment, staging environment, production environment, and so on, and they get tested. So what we don't have today is what we call as a continuous requirement. This is where the behavior-driven approach comes in, and they help you to have this continuous requirement ecosystem. So that, what does this mean? What does this continuous requirement mean? That means whenever there is a change in requirement, I should be seamlessly able to put it in a plain text format in English-like language, and it doesn't disrupt my CI/CD. Rather, it gets integrated seamlessly, all automated. So the requirement can drive CI and CD. So I'm creating a CR on top of CI/CD, that means continuous requirement on top of this. So how this is helping? So there are two different lines in this graph you are seeing. One is a BDD approach, which is a newer approach, and there's a traditional approach. So if I talk about the visibility, at the start of the project, we have a very good visibility. Like I have a business requirement that is that my sales business team is bringing to me. So I have very good visibility. But over time, the visibility reduces. Why it reduces? It reduces because as we code, as we test, they are written in very development-oriented languages that the project managers and the business guys, they don't understand, and there is no visibility. And the visibility again increases at the end of the life cycle of the service development, where my end or finished product is there and I can see and touch that product. But what happens in this particular phase is when I have low visibility, there is a disconnect between the business guy and the development guy. So I don't know what my developer is actually developing. Are they still adhering to my business requirement? That I don't know. But with behavior-driven approach, it doesn't happen because you are always writing in English-like language, which is driving everything together. So there's a visibility all throughout your development life. And the same happens for adaptability, business value, and risk. So you always have a low risk in comparison to a traditional approach. So these are a few of the value propositions that this new behavior-driven approach is bringing in, and it has been fast being picked up by large-scale service provider. And I will talk about some of these use cases where we are doing it for one of our customers for Pan Europe. We are using this approach so that we can do complete behavior-driven development and testing for them. So they all are seeing these values and bringing this as a new concept for their development of services that they are doing in-house, and also what their vendors are doing. For example, they are even pushing Nokia's and the Ericsson's of the world to do this kind of event. Okay, so we talked about this zero-touch automation. We talked about different service development methodologies, and we came up with a behavior-driven approach that we found as the best solution to create this zero-touch automation. But with that, how all of them boils down to my core problem that I have. So we have deviated a bit. We went to the software development methodology and the history of that. It came out with a very good behavior-driven approach that will be the real game changer here. But how it helps me in the core ecosystem. So so this is the pod stack now, and let me just see how it looks like today. So you have this ONOS, which is mostly working on the control side or the network side, and you have the OpenStack and the Dockers, which are working on the service of the business layer, and then you have the XOS, which is talking more into the end-to-end service. But what we don't have is like a single pane window for creating my service. So I have to create service here, I have to create service here, I have to create service here. Then only my end-to-end service is created. So though I have XOS, which is anything as a service operating system, that doesn't help me to have a business requirement driven service delivery model that I am looking for here. So what I should have? So for that I am proposing a new architecture. So I am saying that all those loose elements, let me tie them into a CORD exe, and then this XOS, let me make it something called as a behavior driven XOS, that is BDXOS, through a BDD engine on top of XOS, so that I can write those English like behaviors, put it here to my XOS, and that orchestrates all of these loose elements together, and I have a single pane window for my service delivery. So what this BDD engine will do, the BDD engine will have a plug and play layer where it has plugins for testing, test automation, KPIs and EXE that will generate these changes that are required. For example, there's a change in requirement that is happening. It will automatically create those test cases, automation suite, KPIs and so on. And it will do this using a learning engine, which can be a rule-based engine or a machine learning-based engine. We are using a rule-based engine now to have this complete automated ecosystem that we want. Right. So what we have done till now, so we have seen that because behavior-driven approach is a very good approach and is one of the best suited mechanism to have a business outcome-driven service delivery methodology. So we have come up, we have extended our XOS of our CORD to something called BDXOS. Now this BDXOS is when it gets into the ecosystem of CORD service delivery, how it look like. So what will happen is now the requirement will come in, it will go to BDXOS and it will also go to the application developer for developing application, and then everything else is automated. Test scenarios, the changes in CORD exe, stage deploy, and all the KPI collection will all be automated. Now, one more thing that we are introducing here is a risk analytics. That means any change that is happening in my requirement and any testing that I am doing, so can I calculate the associated risk using the KPI that I am deriving from all the lifecycle elements of my CORD service development methodology, and come up with a risk matrix like this, which is a heat map. So the green, yellow, red, orange, that kind of heat map that tells me like what are the risks that I have at different parts of my service. For example, login and security. That means a secure login is if that is a feature of my service. So is it green or it is red? So that gives me a good risk assessment, and that goes back to my BDXOS, and it helps me to further fine-tune my automation procedure. That means I have a closed-loop control in which this BDXOS is driving all the automation that is required in my service delivery lifecycle for a continuous deployment application. Okay. So this risk scoring helps me to do a very good root cause analysis. For example, I have an end-to-end test service, then if I have a low score, I will go to the next lower level, that is service level, system level, module level, and so on, to find out the exact module where it is. So we are applying a lot of risk-based analytics to do an RCA of how the testing should happen. So I will skip some of the slides in interest of time and come up with this CORD architecture. So this CORD architecture with the commodity hardware, the leaf spine, and the residential, enterprise, and mobile. This is the CORD ecosystem. But what we have achieved with all this talk that we have is a single pane window where I am able to deliver my service, and through a behavior-driven approach, that I write a behavior, get into this the CORD using a single pane window where it can onboard and automate the entire procedures. Right. So I have now onboarded my service, right? I have onboarded my service, and I have service up and running. Then I need to operationalize that service. I need to have this service being monitored and the service being kept in a very good condition so that it can be in a usable state 24/7. So for that I use a closed loop automation. So there is a new construct in CORD that's called ACORD or analytics CORD that's coming in. So we are leveraging pieces of that like network monitoring, context creation, etc., and creating this closed loop automation on top of different CORD pods to create this zero touch ecosystem for us. Right. So we have spoken about service onboarding. We are talking about service optimization, how this closed loop automation happens, and then I have a few use cases. In interest of time, I am just not going through them but they are very similar to the use case that you have seen for MCORD earlier. There's an RCORD use case, there's an MCORD use case, and there's an ECORD use case. Now, I will spend a couple of minutes talking about the results and the future work that we are doing. So we have done it for a very large scale European operator, as I was discussing, and we have achieved a lot of benefit for them, which you can see as in summary here. 60% reduction in cost of labor, 30% time to market, 70% improvement in quality, and 57% improvement in the total cost of ownership. And we have been doing this project since 2014 with them, and it is like for the last 3 years we have been delivering these benefits to them, and now they see this as their go-to-market strategy for delivering any new service in their organization. Similarly, there is one more example where it is a global risk advisory firm where like they have failed QA percentage getting reduced over time from somewhere around 30% to 2% because of this behavioral approach. Right. So I'll just skip this future work and see like what I need from the CORD community to have this kind of thing in place in the CORD. One thing that I would like to have is the CORD has a very strong build process. So I want to introduce this behavior-driven approach in CORD. So it should be taken in the roadmap of the build process. I want this behavior-driven testing should be the de facto testing for the CORD tester and the Fabric offset test mechanisms in CORD. That means the testing community should also embrace this behavior-driven approach. I want this XOS should have a roadmap to transform itself to BDXOS. And finally, I want this RCORD and MCORD and ECORD, which are just taking up new use case. So one of the new use case they should take up using a behavior-driven approach and see what are the benefits they are getting in correspondence to what they have been doing under the traditional approach. So with this, I end my talk. So just to recap what we have spoken about, we have seen there are challenges because of loss of loose end in CORD. We didn't have a complete business requirement. From there on, we have seen that we have a behavior-driven approach and a zero-touch mechanism that can help to get into this kind of challenges. Then we have seen that how, as a service developer, I should embrace this behavior-driven approach to develop a zero-touch ecosystem. How I can onboard a zero-touch, how I can operationalize zero-touch, and so on. And then I have seen, like from the CORD community, what is the support I should seek or I need to make it a mainstream. So with that, I end my talk, and I don't know how much time I have. 5 more minutes. Yeah, 5 more minutes. So if you have any questions, if you have.
Sure. So the test. I mean, well, let's talk about the engine. Is this something that you guys developed in house? Your engine to get the KPIs for your learning engine particularly?
Yeah, so we have developed everything in-house and mostly using open source tools. For example, this behavior-driven engine is driven by a tool called Cucumber. It is an open source tool, you might have heard that. For the learning engine, we have started using Drules, which is a rule-based system. Drules, DROOLS.
Okay.
And then what we, as a future work, what we are doing, we are moving to more AI, ML or machine learning models.
Right, that's kind of what, yeah, okay. So you're looking at putting machine learning algorithms in there. Are, the problem that we're finding, because we write a lot of machine learning algorithms in our software stack as well, is latency, right? I/O capabilities to get to the speed that carriers are looking for. So they, they're doing 120 transactions per second. In order for a learning engine to stay up with that speed, you have to do a lot of offloading to either FPGA, which we're figuring out that that's probably the way to go. How are you able to keep up with? Well, okay, so you're mainly more talking about building core, not so much of providing the analytics for building and things like that, right?
We are talking about both because without an strong analytics engine, we will not able to improve the way we are automating all these different processes. So we have to have a stronger analytics. That's why we talked about this analytics and the learning engine here.
Okay.
Now, we have a valid question like how fast we can stream in those data inside. So we are using some of the Kafka models, and there is one of our expert who is doing that.
Nice.
Yeah, so we push the data into those data clusters, and then we have some frameworks wherein you select specific features or matrix out of those Kafka rather than getting the whole data, and then
Yeah.
select the right full candidates, right?
Yeah, like a
And
Markov.
then,
Yeah,
exactly.
Markov chain model. You're just pulling out the key.
And push it into the algorithm wherein you can train those models.
So the Kafka framework that you're using, are you using as part of XOS, or is that separate?
It's a separate.
It has to be separate. Okay.
I think one more minutes, any more questions? And coming to your GPU questions, so yes, we are using more FPGAs now because we are seeing that even GPU is not so fast. And because we don't have a lot of FPGAs in-house, so we are looking towards the cloud. For example, Amazon provides a lot of FPGA.
Yeah, F1. The F1 cloud has.
So we are using that. We are also collaborating with Intel to get some of their FPGAs in their
Skylake.
in cloud. So that will be. I think we have 2 more minutes left. Any last question that we have on the technical? Okay, if not, then I'd like to thank all of you for your patience and hearing me out.